Hi, welcome back to Reading the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and on this episode we'll be exploring number 1 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
All right, and number 1 is Casablanca, released in 1942, directed by Michael Curtiz, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman.
The synopsis for this romantic drama is as follows. In December 1941, American expatriate Rick Blaine, played by Humphrey Bogart, owns a nightclub and gambling den in Casablanca, which attracts a varied clientele. Despite feigning indifference, he demonstrates sympathy for the many refugees of the war, desperate to reach neutral America. Letters of transit make their way into Rick's hands, which he agrees to hide. The owner dies before he can retrieve them. Rick's former lover, Ilse Lund, played by Ingrid Bergman, enters his establishment. She is accompanied by her husband, Victor Laszlo, a Czech resistance leader. The two need the letters to escape to America, as German Major Strasser has come to Casablanca to arrest Laszlo. Laszlo's inquiries have led him to believe Rick can help. Rick refuses to sell to him. When pressed, Rick tells Laszlo to ask his wife why. They are interrupted when Strasser leads a group of Germans in singing. Laszlo then leads the house band in proud defiance. Fearing Laszlo can inspire the patrons of Casablanca, Strasser demands local military leader Renault to close the club. Later, Ilse confronts Rick at the deserted club. He again refuses to give her the letters. She pulls a gun on him but confesses she still loves him. She explains that when they met and fell in love in Paris, she believed Laszlo had been killed while attempting to escape a concentration camp. While preparing to flee Paris with Rick, she learned Laszlo was still alive, and she left Rick without explanation to nurse her sick husband. Rick's bitterness dissolves. He agrees to help, letting her believe she will stay with him when Laszlo leaves. When Laszlo unexpectedly shows up, Rick has waiter Carl spirit Ilse away. Laszlo, aware of Rick's love for Ilse, tries to persuade him to use the letters to take her to safety. When the police arrest Laszlo on a trumped-up charge, Rick persuades Renault to release him so he can be set up for a more serious crime, the possession of the letters. To allay Renault's suspicions, Rick tells him that he and Ilse will leave for America. When Renault tries to arrest Laszlo as planned, Rick pulls a gun on him and forces him to assist in the escape. At the last moment, Rick makes Ilse board the plane with Laszlo, telling her she would regret it eventually if she didn't. Strasser, tipped off by Renault, drives up alone to stop the plane. Before he can do so, and after ignoring Rick's warnings, Rick shoots and kills him. When police arrive, Renault pauses before telling them that Strasser has been killed and to round up the usual suspects. As he and Rick walk away in the fog, he suggests to Rick that they join the Free French in Brazzaville.
Well, we're at number 1.
We have reached the end of this list.
This is Casablanca. Amazing story.
Yeah, this movie regularly lands in the top 5 best movies of all time on many, many lists, including the last AFI Top 100, I believe. I think
of every movie, right?
Yeah, I think it might be number 2. It's pretty high up on Sight and Sound and other movie lists as well. It's always in the top. It really, really is a very, very good movie.
It's a beautiful story. Rick, Humphrey Bogart, he looks so cool with his white dinner jacket and his you know what I mean? He's just here I am with my gin joint and I'm smoking cigarettes and I'm the cool guy and
all the while he's just completely heartbroken, and that's what kind of leads to him being so disaffected. And then
she walks in and he's a complete mess.
And yeah, he just falls apart.
He falls apart.
This is a really interesting love story for me because I totally root for Rick. Rick's a total stand-up dude, and I can't stand her.
Dude, Elsa is a horrible person. I'm sorry, but she really is. I mean, look, she's gorgeous. She's Ingrid Bergman. I get it. But, like, one, she has an affair.
Well, she thinks he's dead, though. She's been told that her husband has died.
Right, but then she finds out he's in a concentration camp, and she continues the affair.
No, she...
Yes, she does.
No, she is told that he died escaping the concentration camp. So when she's with Rick, she thinks he's dead. And then at the end, like when they're about to leave Paris, she finds out he is in fact alive, and that's why she leaves Rick. It's in the movie.
Okay, well, no, because remember we were like, holy shit, he was in a concentration camp while she was having an affair.
Well, that's what the actual facts were, but what she was told was that he was dead.
I see.
And then she finds out, oh, he's not dead. He in fact lived, but he's hurt, and she leaves without telling Rick at all. She just kind of goes off without telling him.
Well, let's talk about when she appears at his apartment.
Yeah. Well, there's not just that, but the other part of it is too, is like, your husband died. Where's your grieving process?
I'm not so like tripping on that. Okay. But she goes up to his apartment, and then she's like, give me the passes. And he's like, I'm not giving you the passes. And then she's like, I held him at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Like, give me the passes for me and Laszlo. Is that his name, Laszlo?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, I'm not giving them to you. Go ahead and shoot me. And then she's like, oh, Rick, I love you. I love you. I've loved... And it's like, that was quick. You know, like, oh, okay, now that you want these passes from me, instead of trying to, you can't kill me, so now you're going to be like, it's just...
Yeah.
And then she knows. She knows that he doesn't know. He doesn't understand what happened, right? And then she's like, play that song, Sam. And he's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, play it,
My biggest issue beyond that is, the Paris thing, fine, you thought he was dead and you were with another man. Even Laszlo is like, hey, what happened?
Yeah,
then?
He's like, hey, I get it.
I get it. We're not gonna even like, we're not gonna, go over that. We're not gonna litigate it. But she is like, after she's wants to leave him for Rick.
Yeah. She's like, fuck this guy, leave him in Casablanca, and then we'll go back to the States.
It's like, what?
Yeah, yeah. And
she leaves it up to Rick to make the most difficult choice he'll ever have to make. He has to give away the woman that he's like desperately in love with, not for the first time, but for the second time and for good.
So questions.
Yes.
First question. Do we think she was playing Rick?
I don't know. It's hard. It's
I
hard
mean,
to
she
tell.
was generally shocked at the end, like he wasn't planning to go with her.
And she's generally distraught.
And she is distraught. I think at first she might have been playing him. Maybe. But then, and then when do you think Rick decided not to go with her?
Pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think he came up with that plan. I think he came up with the plan the moment that Laszlo came in. I think he came up with that plan after understanding how good a guy Laszlo is. Mm-hmm. Like, they had a bro moment.
They did.
They have a serious bro moment. Like,
yeah, because like Laszlo has complete respect for Rick.
They both respect each other. He understands. I know you're in love with my wife. I know there was a thing in Paris.
I get it.
I ain't gonna fight you about it.
Yeah.
And in fact, get her out of here.
Yeah.
Take her to America. Get her out of here. And Rick's like, you love her that much that you're willing to do that. And then Rick kind of like, I think he's like, you know what? I love her that much too. And the right thing to do is she's going to go off with you. Yeah. And I'll figure it out from here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
she makes him make the most difficult choice instead of her making the really, really difficult choice. I throw this back. I think of another movie that's on this list where you have a kind of a similar situation, which is The Bridges of Madison County.
Mm-hmm.
The woman makes the really, really difficult choice, and then he also makes they both make the really difficult choice.
Yeah, and I think that when he's telling her, if you don't go, you're going to regret it. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow,
but someday.
Yeah.
I think he's also talking to himself.
He is.
He's like, I'm going to regret keeping her here.
And it's not just that, but it's like, how do you... It doesn't matter how much love there is. That's always going to be the background
of
how they were together.
Yeah. And he sacrificed a lot, Rick, because he gave up. He sold his club for that.
He kind of knew the moment that he got involved that his, sitting on the sidelines, being the neutral party, it was over anyway. So the club wasn't going to work anymore anyway.
Yeah.
And he decided to take a stand, and that's why him and Renault at the end, they're going to go off and they're going to join the fight.
Yeah. So, super good story.
Yeah.
Super interesting characters.
The most interesting thing for me is thinking of it at the time. It's about World War II.
Yeah.
And it's made right in the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
Amazingly, it's made like within a year of when this, it's super topical. So it's like making a movie about like the Vietnam War while the Vietnam War is still happening. And that really didn't happen. Generally, when you're making a war movie that has something to say.
Yeah.
And not just about, the battle and stuff. There's usually a period of time. There's a period of time of reflection, right? So you don't start getting you get a few, like you get like Apocalypse Now. You get a couple of Vietnam War movies like right after the war, but you don't really start to get them till like the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Is when you start to get.
There was like that big surge of.
So you've got like
Vietnam
you've got
movies.
like a decade of time for the filmmakers that are making those movies to have grown up a little bit in terms of their response to the war. They were part of it, sometimes like Oliver Stone. But this one takes place right in the middle of it. And in fact, in the story, you're talking about neutral America. America hasn't even entered World War II.
Yeah.
At the time that this story starts. So it's 1941. It's before, Pearl Harbor hits. So it's really, really interesting stuff.
It is. And I really, really liked Sam's relationship with Rick. He was like, oh man. As soon as Sam saw her walk in, he was like,
gonna be a
oh,
he knew it was going to be a shit show.
Yeah. And so he tried to protect his friend. He tried to, like, stop drinking, let's get out of here. Let's go home.
Yeah.
He was really trying to help him because he's probably, after these years without her, he's seen how much he's struggled, right? So I think that, he was trying to help him out as much as he can.
Yeah.
But
this is a good one.
Really good.
I gave it a 65. Jerry gave it a 76. So the list score is 70 and a half.
Yeah.
So we have reached the end of the list.
Whew.
So we have 2 more episodes that will be based on this list. So the next one after this will be a renumbering of the list based on our score. So it's just going to deal with the same 100 movies, but we're going to rank them based on our score. Yeah. So like Casablanca, looking at the score, is not going to be our number one. Something else will be our number one. So we'll see how that all plays out. The thing that we did, again, is every single one of these 100 movies were rated with the same criteria. So, you can't make everything objective. I mean, you're still dealing with, you know, subjectivity in terms of your own experience,
right?
You know, all of that, but you can still, you know, we're trying to make it as objective as possible by using the same criteria every time when we evaluate one of these movies. So there's a fairness to it. And then in the episode following that, we are going to give you what our top 100 love stories are. It's going to take into account these 100 movies that we've watched. And additionally, while we were watching all the movies for this list,
we watched a lot of movies, guys.
We watched about 150 additional movies. A great many of them came out after 2002 when this list was published. Yep. So to be fair to the AFI, these movies couldn't possibly have made their list. But there are some pretty big omissions, in my opinion, that were not recognized on this list that I just frankly don't understand. Some of it has to do with it being the American Film Institute. So they do some weird stuff like, you know, A Brief Encounter is not on this movie. It's a David Lean movie. 2 episodes ago, we had a few episodes ago, we had Dr. Zhivago, which is a David Lean movie. It's like, why did one David Lean movie make it, but another one didn't? It's because the producers weren't American. And beyond that, I didn't have a problem taking in some foreign movies because they tackle a lot of non-American stories on this list. So I think, in all fairness, you can take...
There was some really, really good foreign love stories.
I'm going to give you a little spoiler. Our number 1 movie is going to be a foreign movie. It's the highest rated movie that we have on our list was a foreign movie.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to talk about it. And I hope to get some of you to see it because it's a brilliant film. So that's what we have in store. And then at the end of that episode, we will discuss what the next list that we'll be tackling. It's going to be in a completely different kind of direction. I hope you guys will stick along. Even, you know, if you're really into love stories, I hope you'll continue on the journey with this new list. We're going to tackle it in the same way. We'll explain that.
Not 100 though.
Yeah, this one has this is a smaller list.
This is a little bit of a smaller list.
This one has 50. But there are a whole lot of movies to watch on the side, like way more than 150. We're probably going to be watching about 200 to 250 movies on the side. And the nature of that list, there could be even more that come out while we're doing this list.
Yeah, really.
So it's going to be an interesting journey. We will discuss the rating criteria for that list, which will be slightly different than this one, but mostly the same. It'll just be adjusted because the
subject matter
is different, and this list will allow a certain different kind of category of movie. I don't want to give it away too much. But I think it'll be a fun journey, even for people who generally don't watch the movies in this particular genre. I think you'll get something out of it. So we can't wait to start on that list. So 2 more after this one on this list, then we're going to end it, and then we're going to start on the next journey, which I think will be a lot of fun. Until next time, I'm Brad.
And I'm Jerry, and we're rating the list. Have a good night. Bye.